What got you out of that 9 to 5 and what inspired you to start the car scene in the first place?
If something doesn't interest me, then I can't give it my all. I can't give it 100%. And I grew up with this mentality of if I'm going to do something, I need to be the best.
What is it really like being an influencer or content creator?
To me, influencer, it feels fake. It just feels so disingenuous. So when I first started out, I started out as a journalist. That was what I preferred to be.
I think you've made your page and the challenges that you do like so exciting and so different. Do you want to talk us through that Kenya challenge
Yo,
that
man.
you did?
In 1 month, I have to drive all the way to Kenya, but I have a budget of 30,000 Rand to buy a car.
Hi guys, welcome to Coffee Charge Conversations. We are back at Real Global Productions and it's awesome to be back in the studio again. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm and it helps us bring in bigger, better guests and allows us to have more authentic, real conversations. Today we are joined by Sam da Fonseca, who is the founder of TheCarScene South Africa, which is the biggest or the most followed car page in South Africa. Sam, welcome to Coffee Charge Conversation.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, bro.
So before you started the car scene South Africa, you said that you were in a 9 to 5. What got you out of that 9 to 5 and what inspired you to start the car scene in the first place?
So I'm the type of person, and I think it can be quite relatable to a lot of viewers and listeners. If something doesn't interest me, then I can't give it my all. I can't give it 100%. And I grew up with this mentality of if I'm going to do something, I need to be the best. So I started working at a telecommunications company in corporate sales, at the head office, everything. That was like right out of school. And it did pretty well. I did pretty well. I sold a few contracts. But it also taught me that I couldn't work for a boss. Because every time I made my own decision and I did something that I thought would be the right way, I would just get cucked on. And I thought there's no way. It's like I'm actually doing right for the company, but I'm getting cucked on. I'm making you more money. And that's when I decided, you know what? I need to pursue my own passions. And my dad was also actually very encouraging. And I'm very grateful for that. And he always taught me that if you love something, just focus on your passion and the money will come later. If you're doing it for the money, then you're already doing it for the wrong reason. And I've done stuff for the money. And even throughout my endeavors with the car scene, I would take up clients where I didn't really enjoy doing the work, but at the end of the day, it was a paycheck. And it just sort of dulled my passion and lulled my light for it. So that's how all of that happened. And I just focused on what I loved, which was cars.
And what do you love the most about what you do at the moment?
To be honest, nowadays I've had the opportunity and the privilege to experience a lot of cars, and as much as I love cars and things that go brr, bah, and all of that, it's great. But at the end of the day, for me, it's more about the people now and the connections that you make throughout the industry, the networking potential. Like I found myself in really weird situations where I'm sitting at like a dinner table with the CEO of Westbank and like I'm rubbing shoulders with them, and it's like, whoa, like this is crazy. I got here just because I loved cars. And now I would say the passion for working with people and connecting with other like-minded individuals has superseded that passion.
But surely I'd say, I mean, it's almost cliche. People say like, do what you're passionate about. But at the same time, for some people, they might not really have that option. Maybe what they're passionate about is something that doesn't generate money, or maybe it's something that they're actually not that good at.
You know, Mike, even when I started the car page, it was just a page on Instagram. And I think it could also be relatable because even when I started, it was like, how the heck am I going to make money out of this? To be honest, I wasn't even thinking about how I can make money out of this. I was just going with, okay, I'm going to go with the flow. There surely will be an opportunity with going this route and growing a page and growing my personal brand. And then Instagram, social media influencing became a thing. But if you told me in 2017 when we first started this whole thing, which is what now, like 7 years ago. It's not that long ago, like in the timeline of things, that one day an Instagram post would be worth money. I would have had no idea. And my heart goes out to matriculants now who are finishing school. And I've had the same conversations with my brother and his friends a couple of years ago. And it's like, well, what now? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to go to university. You're going to study a degree that's probably a little bit like quite outdated in terms of its curriculum.
Or that could get taken over by AI.
Anyway, so, dude, there's always some spark in someone where there's a passion, and you just need to think of how you can leverage that. And I've had so many conversations with people where they tell me, no, I don't have a passion, but you don't realize that within yourself, what you're already doing is part of that passion. Like if you're working a job every day where you have to interact with people, like that's a skill that you've developed at the end of the day. And a lot of making more money is just down to how you market yourself. Like when I first started pitching to dealerships and clients, I would say, hey, I want to take pretty pictures of your cars. But that's not how a business-minded person thinks. So they were like, okay, cool, we'll pay you like 5,000 Rand a month. But fast forward a couple of years down the line, I've got that experience now of how to actually market myself and sell myself. I can speak a different language. So when I walk into a dealership, I'm like, hey, I actually want to sell you more cars. How are you going to do that? We're going to do X, Y, and Z. All of a sudden, when now I want to charge more money, it's justifiable because it's like, yeah, I can charge you the margin of 2 or 3 more cars because we're going to sell more cars. So it's also just about how you market yourself. And I feel like we get stuck. And I was stuck. Even when I worked for this telecommunications company, you do the same thing day in, day out. And you start to believe within yourself that you're not worth more or that you can create more opportunities for yourself.
Sure. That makes me think. But yeah, I think for some people as well, some people need that 9 to 5 in order to fund what they're doing. Like,
For sure.
at the end of the day, I could want to be a influencer, content creator, but as you would know, it doesn't happen overnight.
No, man.
So sometimes you need something on the side, I feel, to get that income so that you can put it towards something that you actually care about.
Definitely. Look, a lot of it is taking a risk, Mike. And a lot of it is definitely saving up a little bit of a safety net. But at the end of the day, like most of it is actually just believing in yourself. And I've told so many people, like I work in a marketing space. So a lot of my connections are people who work at marketing companies. They've got full-time 9 to 5s promoting this company, building their brands. And a lot of the time, the remuneration isn't the best. It's not. Like I can get a part-time client and charge for like 5 videos what they would make in a whole month. But that's just because of the way I've marketed myself and the way I've presented my value to the world through all of my videos and my own social media presence, my own personal brand. But you can't tell me that if you hand in your notice and you spend an entire month just client hunting, networking, getting in front of the right people, making the right moves, you can't tell me that by the end of that month, you would not have sorted an opportunity. Like that cannot be possible.
Yeah. Do you think that doubt just has a big role in that?
Hugely, dude. And it's like, whenever I would market to a client, I would take the risk and go, you know what? I'll do the first video free. And let's see what happens. Let's see your ROI. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. Like a silly example was like a restaurant. Okay. They're not getting that many feet through the door, or they're not getting that many takeaway orders. And that's your marketing client. But even as a marketing strategist, you need to think about so much more than just making pretty content. You need to think about the business operations day to day. Okay, why aren't there that many people walking through the door? Why aren't we getting that many takeaways? So I had a chat with a good friend of both of ours.
Yes.
And
shout out Matt.
Shout out Matt. And I was saying, well, let's do a takeaway special, and let's boost that within like a 5-kilometer radius, and we'll measure the ROI. Are more people walking through the door? If the answer is yes, then you've brought that business value. Therefore, your services are worth more. So it's just about finding that balance and just taking a risk. Sure, okay, you might have to save up for like 2 or 3 months because your first couple of clients are going to pay you like 5,000 Rand a month, but you're just starting.
Yeah.
But it is so 110% possible.
And I think a lot of people, especially the older generations, look as they look at influencers and content creators, and it all just seems like a fairy tale make-believe world. And I think a lot of people assume that it's easy to do that. But if it was easy, then everyone
Yeah.
would be an influencer. What is it really like being an influencer or a content creator?
Yeah, I don't like that term influencer. I really don't, because to me, influencer, it feels fake. It just feels so disingenuous. So when I first started out, I started out as a journalist. That was what I preferred to be called. Like, I'm an automotive journalist. I'm giving people very great studies on like what the car is like. But now, obviously, it has evolved into more than that. And now we work with brands and we do influencing per se. And it goes back to what I said in the beginning. If you're doing it for the wrong reasons, it's going to suck. So if you're watching all these content creators online, like, oh, it looks like these guys are having a whale of a time playing with new cars, always getting the latest products, and staying at great hotels. It's amazing. It's really, really fun, and I'm super grateful for all those opportunities. But if you're going to do it just to like have a slice of that lifestyle, you're doing it for the wrong reason. Like, I didn't even know that any of that stuff existed when I started. So I was just doing it because I loved cars and I wanted to help people. But to answer your question, what it's like, it's hard work. It's a lot of hard work, dude. The camera doesn't care for how you feel. If you need to get that shoot done, you need to get it done. It doesn't matter if you're feeling sick or whatever, if you got a headache. Who gives a shit? Carry on, push on. There's people at the end of the day that are waiting to see your content. It's long hours. It's a lot of scripting. It's a lot of thought and time that needs to go into it. But it's worth it. Because when you put out a piece of content that actually does well and resonates with people and that's relatable, you feel good about that. And it's a win. And it goes back to even what I said in the beginning. If I do something, I must be the best. There's no place in my mind where second or third is even a thought. It must be like the best content that you watch. So it's always having that drive, that determination. And a lot of the time, like, social media can kill that. It's so easy. Like, I feel like we've all been through patches where, like, now a video doesn't do well, and then consecutively the next one doesn't, and the next one doesn't. It just feels like you go through a rut. Like, I've had it where I've like been pulling my hair out.
And you start, like, I know for me at least, then I kind of look inward sometimes and I go like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't people resonating? Do you find yourself worrying about other people's opinions sometimes, especially when it comes to social media?
Yeah, to a certain extent, it is quite important, because you need to take the feedback that your audience gives you, and you have to use it wisely. So like, I've realized, like, if I post electric cars, my audience, they do not like electric cars. Like, they want to hear petrol, V8, loud exhaust. So it's like, every time I review an electric car, they're like, Sam, what shit are you feeding us now? I'm just like, guys, it's cool. Like, just like, listen to me, trust me. So yeah, you do have to take the opinions and the criticism. You do. Obviously, like, lightly, because there's always going to be people who don't like to see you moving forward. But I must say, in the industry that we're in at the moment, with all my peers and people I collaborate with, there isn't much negativity in the space at the moment. And I think it's taken a lot of growth from all of us to actually look past and just realize that, everybody's doing their own thing. There's enough fish in the sea for everyone to share. So it's actually a really nice space to be in at the moment.
What are the best ways to generate income from social media?
Well, at the moment, this is a two-pronged answer, I would say. Because as much as growing your personal brand is important to try and get your own influencer campaigns, if you're in the kind of position where you don't have a social media presence or following, you need to think how you can leverage other social media personalities who do have a following. Because just because you have a social media presence doesn't mean you know how to land your own brand deals.
Or that people like you.
Or that people like you. Exactly. That's a good point, eh? So I have a lot of instances where I have an idea for a brand, but it doesn't exactly line up to cars, because I post cars at the end of the day. I can't walk into L'Oreal and be like, hey, I want to do your new soap. Maybe I could, from like a men's lifestyle point of view, like those Gillette ads, something like
Where's
that.
that self-belief, man?
Maybe. But like for a soap line, but I might have a list of content creators that I believe could promote that product. So you could leverage other creators, get them gigs, and almost just be like their agent, their middleman, as long as you have the idea. That's the most important thing. Taking the time to think about the idea across so many different niches and thinking, how can I make this relevant and relatable to that niche through promoting a product? Another way would just be swatting it, trying to do other companies' social medias. Like right now, more than ever, what's so important is spoken content. And I've had the conversation with many people who are making content for their business, and they're like, Sam, it's not working. Like, why should we pay you to do it? Because we're trying and it's not working. You try to tell a client, like, you're doing it wrong. Like, you're not doing it right. You're wasting all of your time, all of your energy, all of your resources into doing it wrong. And like, genuinely speaking, if you're a business and you're not creating spoken word content with captions, with all the nice cuts and everything, you're wasting your time. Like, literally, your time, your fuel, your pay, all of it. There's no point.
You spend all the time on Canva trying to make it look pretty,
For
make
what?
sure your caption is perfect and hits all the right spots.
Yeah.
But I think also, and I'm not coming from a place of knowing that much about social media, but I do have a slight background. And I think quantity is also a big thing. If you're doing all these pretty posts that look great, but you're not posting often, then also the algorithm kind of works against you.
It's a bit of a double-edged sword with quantity and quality, to be honest, nowadays. Like, yes, quantity to a certain extent. But if you think about it, when videos just became a thing, there weren't that many people making videos. There were, technically speaking, sort of a similar amount of people consuming videos, but certainly not as many creators. So back then, like when I first started making videos, it wasn't that hard to grow, because it was like niche content, doing car reviews. So the platform just took off, thankfully. But if you, like, even quantity, and it's not great content, because there's so many people creating content, it's so difficult nowadays to actually rank. So I rather actually say to clients, I'm like, we're going to kill the quantity and we're going to go for quality. And I'd rather make 3 banging videos every month, but like where we put a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of thought into it. And even the shoot itself takes a lot of time. And there's a lot of elements and a lot of camera angles, because that's what it takes nowadays, because we're just so desensitized to everything that we see. Genuinely.
So you've done some quality content, some really cool content. I mean, as I said to you earlier, I'm not a car person at all. So my knowledge on cars is very, very little. But I think you've made your page and the challenges that you do like so exciting and so different. Do you want to talk us through that Kenya challenge you did?
That was fantastic, and that came at quite a pivotal point in the car scene's life, because I was just doing normal car reviews, and as much as the car reviews, they were doing okay. Like, I looked at the page and I was like, shit, what am I doing differently? Because we've got a lot of automotive journalists, not a lot, but there's a few of us, and like the one thing that kind of like irks me is I'll get the car to review, like whether it's a red Mercedes A-Class, okay? But next week or the week before me, another automotive journalist will have it, and another one will have it, and another one will have it. So we're all making videos on the same car. And I'm like, there's no difference like in Sam. Sam's serving everyone like a similar kind of content. So I thought, you know what? All of us, we've always aspired to that Top Gear level sort of content. It's always been the dream, doing the crazy challenges, and I'm quite a risk taker. And I just thought, you know what? There's this thing called Africa Rally, where you drive from South Africa all the way to Kenya. Starting point is Hartbeespoort Dam, and you end all the way at the top of Kenya. I thought, you know what? We got to do this thing. Like, we're going to go out, we're going to buy a car, and we're going to see what happens. And when I started the project, we didn't have enough funding to do it. That's how crazy it was. And I set myself the challenge of like, in a month, I'm going to do this. And I don't know what pushed me to do it. I just said for a very long time, I need to do something where we drive a long distance and we go like through Africa and we just do something crazy. And we buy a piece of shit even. Like the crappiest car we can find.
Yeah.
So I set a challenge and I said, okay, cool. In 1 month, I have to drive all the way to Kenya, but I have a budget of 30,000 Rand to buy a car. And we started looking for cars. And it was like, yes, bro. Cars were missing engine mountings. Cars weren't being able to start. It was a shit show, to tell you the truth. Like, the worst cars I've ever seen in my life. And then we went all the way to the Vaal to go and buy a Ford Cortina. And as we got there, the guy sold it straight away. And I was like, dude, what the heck? Like, we drove all the way here. Quickly hopped onto Marketplace again, and a BMW X5 came up. A first generation one with a swapped motor. Some maniac put a Toyota V8 in there. The same thing out of a Land Cruiser. So we go look at the car, and the thing is clapped. It's on 20-inch rims. The rims are buckled. It's leaking everywhere. But I jumped in. The seats are like torn and everything. I open the glove box, and I just see slips. I'm like, what the heck? So I asked the guy, I'm like, what is all of this? He's like, no, it's my petrol slips. I just drove back from Cape Town yesterday. I was like, geez, dude. And I look at the date. I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like 8,000 Rand on fuel you spent to get here. So I was like, cool, we'll buy it straight away. It was like the most amount of proof that we had that this was a working car. So we bought this X5, and the first video got over 1 million views, over 3 million with TikTok as well. And everybody was hooked. Everybody loved it. Everybody was like, what the heck, Sam? Are you crazy? What are you doing? Went to go see a whole lot of cars, bought the Land Cruiser. And we actually let the followers decide the name on it. And it was sort of like during elections. So some people had funny names. Like somebody wanted to name it the Coalition because it's like a Toyota engine in a BMW. And then the Land Cruiser came about, and the one guy was like, oh, name it the Land Cruiser. And that got the most likes. So we ended up calling it
cool.
The Land Cruiser. It was a crazy trip. And it also speaks to the whole thing where I say, like, take risks. Like, if you believe in yourself and you believe in the vision, there's no ways that you will not make it happen.
Yeah.
And the
most
same
people
thing
would have stopped.
Exactly. Most people would have stopped. And it's like the same thing happened with the Sleigh. The same thing happened with the VW now. It's like, we're going to do it. We're going to sell the story, because that's, at the end of the day, like, that's so entertaining. It's like, what brand wouldn't want to latch onto it? The more tricky conversations come in with the sponsors, especially when some companies are like, yeah, we'll give you product. And you're like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, product's great, eh? But it's costing me a hell of a lot of money to do this project, to be able to promote your product to way more viewers. Because if I were just doing normal car reviews, I wouldn't be getting the amount of views that we're getting now and the amount of traction. So it's also that personal investment. We were having a discussion off camera earlier. And even like when we turned a profit for the Sleigh Challenge, I thought, okay, like, I can either do this with my money or do this with my money. Take a risk, buy another car, build it up, do another challenge. Let's get sponsors on board.
And what experiences did you go through, positive and negative, as a result of taking that risk?
Well, positively, it's definitely increased my brand presence, for sure. I feel like I'm becoming known as that guy now that does crazy stuff, which is the persona that I wanted to develop for myself. Negative, dude. I'm really struggling to think of any negatives.
Did you have any challenges, like, along the way, or obstacles on your way to Kenya?
Yeah, no, we did. I'm just trying to think of like deeper than that. Any obstacles? Look, dealing with failure is always the thing. Like, we'd always pitch to brands, and they'd leave you on red, or not open your email, or like act like they're disinterested, or just not buy into it entirely, and you were like really feeling good about that collaboration. That always happens. So the failure part of it is like, okay, cool, whatever. I always say to people, I'm like, if you're going to go pitch a client, it's like, what are you most afraid of? Of them saying no. But eventually someone's going to say yes. No's fine. Move on.
Also, yeah, if they say no, then you've got that. It's easier said than done, for sure. But then you do have that mental clarity of, okay, cool. I was really excited on that idea, but now I need to shift my energy to someone else or to something else.
Look, dude, it took a lot of no's for me to be perfectly okay with being told no. And it took a lot of lost clients for me to be okay with saying, you know what, it's fine. We'll pick our feet up and go for the next one and go for the new idea. And at the end of the day, like, an end of a chapter, it always happens for a reason. Like, and we go through these, well, I don't know, I do personally go through these cycles of life where there's new people in my life, new companies, then it moves on, now all of a sudden we're doing something else every day. I would say in terms of challenges and obstacles, from a deeper meaning, it's more so dealing with failure. But on the way to Kenya, the borders are really difficult, eh? The borders are difficult when you're traveling through Africa. The car broke down a lot, but that's part of it. It has to. I mean, because the car was engine swapped, it had the wrong key, so it had a different ignition barrel. We bought it with a Hyundai key to go into a BMW that powered a Toyota motor. I was like, I don't really understand. But on the first day already, the key broke, so we got stuck on the start line, having to like break the ignition barrel. It was a stuff up. That same issue stranded us in Malawi, which was crazy. We got stuck outside a petrol station for quite a few hours. But the nice thing is in Malawi, they sell beer at the petrol stations. So I was like, aware, you boys fix the car. I am now passenger princess. They put diesel into our petrol car in Malawi as well. That was quite a stuff up. Had to like take out the whole rear seat, had to siphon all the fuel out. That really sucked. But the people are very friendly. Like when you say like the failures of it, no, I wouldn't say there were any. Like meeting the people was amazing. Even when we were stuck on the side of the road, and you wouldn't think about it. Like in South Africa, you get stuck on the side of the road, you're like, oh, this is not a great place to be.
Yeah.
But if you get stuck on the side of the road in like Botswana, Zim, Tanzania, Malawi, Zambia, Kenya, any of the places where we were, maybe Namibia can be a bit sketch, but you get stuck on the side and everybody's like, can we help you? We were stuck in the middle of nowhere in Tanzania. The Land Cruiser overheated, the pipes burst, and we were like now what? We didn't even have enough water to put into the cooling system because we had drank it all. And all of a sudden, like a villager passes by on his motorbike and he's like, oh, like, what's the problem? Do you need a lift? Do you need a phone? Like, what do you need? We're like, no, the car needs water. Took us all the way to the village to go and buy water. Didn't even let me pay for the water. Brought the water back to the car, put it in the cooling system, waited for us till we were okay. And then we left. So the hospitality in Africa is amazing, dude. It gets such a bad reputation.
I think helping others is so underrated.
Yeah, for sure.
And I see that you do quite a few charity events and challenges and stuff like that, including the Sleigh Challenge, as you mentioned. How has it helped you on a personal level by helping other people, particularly, let's say, for that sleigh event? What was that about?
Yeah, dude. On a personal level, I was fortunate enough to have a really fun childhood. Like I was quite a little shit, to be honest. I was very naughty, got away with a lot, and I just did what I wanted as a kid. And it breaks my heart that a lot of kids aren't like allowed to have, or not necessarily allowed, but circumstantially, they don't have the opportunity to just be a kid and to just live freely and just do stupid dumb shit all day. Because that's what being a kid's about. So when we ran the Sleigh Challenge, I said to my mates, I was like, you know what, I want to do something over December, but instead of making it just about like a challenge and the car, because social media is also a very selfish place. It's very like, look at me. And
yes, you like find yourself thinking about views, engagement. How am I going to make money from this? How am I going to get brands involved? And that Sleigh Challenge looked like quite a selfless thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to find a way to leverage this nasty platform, like these things that we just get sucked into, to do something good. And I thought, you know what, we're going to try and deliver Christmas presents to as many orphanages as possible. And then I thought, okay, well, how are we going to do that? How are people going to engage with this and help us? And so the Sleigh Challenge was born. Drive a decrepit piece of shit, once again, from one point of the country to another point of the country. And we just happened to choose the entire coastline. Because I thought, like, I don't think anybody's ever driven a Lynx, which was our vintage car that we used, or a beach buggy the entire length of the country, which is essentially what we did.
And that's about 3,000 Ks.
It's actually 3,500. Yeah. But we donated all of the Christmas presents, which was great. We donated over 2,000 Christmas presents, visited over 60 orphanages, which is amazing. And you wouldn't think so, hey? You know that KFC Add Hope campaign? That contributes to a lot of orphanages in feeding them. I've never seen it for myself where those 2 rands go. But now, dude, I'll be like, can I give 4 rand? Because you feel for these kids when you meet them, to be honest with you, man. And a lot of the time we'd walk into an orphanage and the kids would be a little bit older, like 12 years old, around there. And we had another lady on the trip with us, and the 2 of us were like presenting the whole campaign. And we'd walk into an orphanage, and sometimes kids would be like, oh, I wish I had a mom and dad. And you'd have to have such tricky conversations with children just to like try and help them understand, you know, like it's tough, yeah, but you know, you're here every day with your friends and there's a lot to be grateful for, that you're being taken care of. And, you know, you only know your life here, but once you've got a life out there, it's a different story. It's a different one for you to embrace. And it's not forever. It's not forever. It's just circumstantial.
It's so easy to compare up. I think we all do it.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, I want to make, your friend tells you how well they're doing financially. You're like, oh, why am I not there
Yeah.
yet? Like, I want to be there. And I think we look so much at what we're missing that we don't take a second. And, you know, it's good to look up, but also sometimes you got to look down
dude.
as well.
It was quite a humbling experience, to be honest, but also such an incredible privilege to be able to give the kids just like a little bit more of a spark. And even when they saw the sleigh, I mean, we had decorated this car with like freaking, what do you call those Christmas hairs? What do you call the things?
No idea.
The leaves, the nice like bright leaves that go onto all the Christmas trees, the wreaths, I don't know, those things. Put lights all over it. We put Santas all over it. It was silly, dude. People in traffic were going mad, and we dressed up as Santas when we drove it. It was just stupid, and that's really what I loved about it. And it was just such an amazing thing that we could bring so many presents to so many kids.
So, for you, do you have a specific car? Like, if you could own one car for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Yeah, see, dude, that's such a cock question.
I'm sure you've been asked this question before.
Yeah, but a one car solution is very tough, man. Because mans needs to go off road, mans needs to go fast, mans needs to be comfortable. You know, a car also needs to look good. It's a tough one, hey. If it's a one car garage, we're gonna rule out fuel efficiency. I think a 911 Dakar. Have you seen the Porsche 911 Dakar?
I haven't.
Dude, it is crazy. They basically took their best sports car and they were like, we're gonna make it go off road. They did it with a Lamborghini as well, called a Lamborghini Starato. That thing can climb mountains. In a Lamborghini, like what kind of world? But I'll take the Porsche. What car would you take?
Sure.
Maybe like Ford Ranger.
As I say, like I'm not much of a car person, so I mean, I used to play like a little bit of Need for Speed, Most Wanted back in the day. Underground. Let me think. I would probably say the old classic Ford Mustang. I don't know. I have no idea what version.
Yeah, but I'm
that bad with cars.
I know the one. Like a 1960s
yeah,
one.
Yeah.
Oh, they drive so terribly.
Just classic.
Dude, that was like the most disappointing car I ever drove. I was like, I put it like here on a plinth, and then when I drove it, I was like, but it looks cool. It's just like you just feel cool.
Yeah, it's more for the aesthetic than anything.
Exactly.
So I mean, you make cars, like I was saying, you make cars and things look fun to people who, like me, who don't really have as much of an interest in cars. Do you think that there's a benefit to not taking life too seriously?
Yeah, dude, for sure. I've met so many professionals in positions where you'd never think like that they don't take life so seriously, and you look at it and you're like, well, what the fuck, bro? Am I gonna just like lull over every day and just be so serious about it, like every day? And I do look like it goes back into the taking things for granted thing. Like we all have those days where we wake up and we don't, like, we're not that grateful for the day, but I try as best as I can. Like sun comes up and you're like, okay, cool, this is another day, good to be here. Why are you going to take life so seriously? But like that being said, I also do get like really upset when things don't go to plan. You know, it sucks. A lot of the time when you plan a shoot, that always happens. Spanners getting thrown into the works, and it's just you needing to adapt to all these changes so that you can still get your piece of content out. I would say that might be the most difficult thing about making content. And it's situations like that where you can't really take it to heart. So you kind of just have to roll with the punches, man. Like it is what it is at the end of the day. Everything is what it is. You can't just be upset about it. Yeah.
I find I sometimes overthink.
Oh, yeah.
Often. Sometimes is actually a complete understatement.
Chronically.
I overthink to the point where I want to plan out things to the nth degree, and then I don't take enough action. So one of my biggest goal, my biggest word for 2025 is action. So rather than trying to plan out everything, taking things too seriously, what could go wrong, Like, I want to start looking this year as what can go right.
Yeah, you have to, dude. I think action is the hardest thing, actually. I just call it jumping. Like, if you've got the feeling in your gut and it feels right, just do it. Really, at the end of the day. Yeah, it really is just taking a risk and just believing in yourself. And if you believe that it must be that way, then just believe in it with enough conviction. Because if you, somebody actually said to me, you need to live life like a GTA character. And you are your GTA character. And you get to make the decisions of where it is. And if you want to develop your life to the big fancy mansion or whatever, you can do it. Most of it is just identifying where the skill lies within you and understanding that, hey, because when you look at a lot of companies, big companies, dude, and I've realized that actually nobody knows what they're doing. There are people who know what they're doing, but a lot of people have no idea what they're doing. And now being around in marketing for enough years, I meet marketing managers and stuff who are like, I'm like, how on earth did you get this job? But like top level management and procurement also have no idea on what's going on. So a lot of the time I find we underrate our skill, even if it's just like you think it's not good enough because of how complicated all of these webs of society are and getting a job and corporate. It's like, well, how on earth? You hear so many stories about unemployment rates and your friend that went to university to study a degree and now they can't get a job in that degree, but you're not that person. Everybody has a different set of social skills at the end of the day as well. There's obviously IQ and EQ. And a lot of the time now, EQ it's taking precedent because people need people that are people to work for them.
I mean, we were chatting about this before we started this episode about AI and how it's taking over, and I think we are starting to lack a little bit of authenticity and realness in the world. Everything's convenient; you can get it so easily.
Yeah, man.
But we're missing like that human factor a little bit. That's also kind of the reason why I started the podcast, because I craved those connections that I didn't feel I was getting anymore. People are so glued to their phones and...
Definitely, dude. We just take in so much garbage. And I think that's really what scares me with AI, especially recently where it started to make like hyper realistic videos and photos. It's now like, well, is anything that we consume even real anymore? And I find that really, really scary. Never mind the job threat that it has on like the creative industry and all of that. So many jobs could become obsolete. Could you imagine like an AI judge or an AI lawyer? Would you even need lawyers if it were just like an AI judiciary where it would have every single file of precedent, every single like court case document, it would have all of that in archive? Because a lot of the time I think in law they make decisions based on precedent. So if it has all of that, it could make a fair and right decision. You just face this AI. Imagine it's this like massive circle and it's like, you are the weakest link. Goodbye. 25 to life. Done. And I think even your accountancies, dude, like imagine your accounts. I don't see why now in the modern day and age you can't have an AI, as scary as it sounds, linked to your bank account, understand where all of your money is going and just do everything for you. Why not? So, dude, everything is getting to the point now where it's getting quite scary. So even my advice to people who want to create content, you need to do stuff that's like real and authentic. Because now we live in a day and age where it's like quite literally anything is possible to be shown to your eyes. So it's like, well, what are you going to do to differentiate yourself?
And as someone who watches content, which most of us do these days, I think you've also got to be conscious about who you follow and what's on your algorithm, because that has a big impact on who you become and the way that you start thinking.
Oh, actually, dude, that's a very good point, eh? And I've got a more sinister belief than that. I personally believe that we are served calculated content. That wherever this algorithm is coming from in the content that you consume, I totally 100% believe it's on purpose. And it's being served to us on purpose. There is like another alternate propaganda motive based and attached to it. 100%, dude. Like if you look like at a certain point in time, I would be scrolling Instagram and TikTok and I would just see videos of mass chaos. like pandemonium, and then all of a sudden like war breaks out over here, war breaks out over here. I know it's like a crazy thing to believe, but it's almost like they try and desensitize you on purpose, so that when all these extraordinary things happen that are just so inhumane, you're like, you're so desensitized that you don't really speak up about it or anything, because it's like you see it happening all the time, kind of thing. But yeah, it is true. Like, if you interact with a lot of car content, you'll see a lot of car content. Yeah.
But also, like you said, like you went through a stage where there was a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
And your life almost starts to become a little bit more chaotic.
Chaotic, I suppose, yeah.
You see happy things, you start feeling a little bit happier.
Definitely.
Like, I think it's got the content that you consume has a much bigger effect on us than we think.
I reckon so, yeah. But I think it's just one big brain rot garbage thing, dude. I don't actually like social media. I hate it.
I miss the days of real connection.
Yeah.
Like, I sometimes envy like my parents and my grandparents, and
All the time.
not, after work, you bring your briefcase or whatever, put it at the door, and you go have a dinner with your family. You're not on your phones. You don't get any emails or anything like that. Next day, back to work. Like,
yeah, get super nostalgic about that, man. That's why I love old cars. I buy a lot of classic cars because I crave that simple time where it was just like things were easier. And nowadays we're so bombarded. Like, I tell people, I'm like, you just even need to think about how your brain operates today and how it operated in 2017. Something as simple as that. Like, what were we on? iPhone 10s, iPhone 8s. The multitasking between different apps, the videos, like all of it, dude. Technology's
ADHD's gone through the roof because we're just focusing on so many things at the same time.
It's just too much that's going on nowadays. And then people wonder why they're fatigued. But it's like, if you look at what us as humans were doing 20 years ago, we weren't being bombarded and so overstimulated like we are nowadays. It just wasn't a thing. So I agree, dude. Like, I wish like it was back in the day where you met a cute girl and you got her like her address or whatever, and you'd have to send her a postcard.
Yeah, or you phone the dad and you're like, I'd like to talk to your daughter. Yeah.
Or you meet her at the park and you're like, I'll see you here next week, and you've got that like butterfly feeling, like, oh my gosh, is she gonna come? Like that side of growing up that I feel like we totally missed. And it makes me so afraid to have children. I don't know how you feel, but dude, raising a child in today's day and age, what a nightmare. I don't know, like, where would you even start? Because there's this side of you that's like, I don't want my child to be an iPad child. But if you don't let your child be an iPad child, there's a good chance they're just going to get left behind.
Yeah.
Because now it's like such a rapid pace with, like, by the time they're 12, they better be making freaking websites. It's like, what else do you expect, dude? Like, what is this shit going to turn into? That's how I go. That's when I want to run away to like an island in like, I don't know, I'd run away to like Zanzibar, dude, and just live on the island. Like, just sell coconuts and just
no
this is
connection.
simplistic, just no phone, no cell phone. Yeah, exactly. I've wanted to do that. And I think a lot of people are turning to themselves and also realizing life is so complicated. And even when we first started, you also made mention that like so many people are sad. Like, a lot of people are not happy with life anymore, because it's like, we are getting stuck in this constant cycle of just day in, day out doing the same exact stuff.
Comparison.
Yeah.
So I think there's positives and there's negatives to social media. And I think what you create is you make it fun. And you said you at the moment trying to stay as far away from AI as possible, and that's coming from like the biggest car brand page, page on social media in South Africa. So I think that authentic side of you really resonates with people. And Sam, I want to thank you for today. I think it's been such a cool conversation, and it's been cool getting to know you a little bit better. I mean, we knew each other kind of friends through friends, but for you to sit here today and share some of your insights, I mean, on social media, a lot of people keep those kind of secrets to themselves.
Yeah.
And I think they have a little bit of that scarcity mindset. They don't want other people to take their ideas from them. And for you to sit here and share that and be vulnerable, I think, yeah, that's really awesome. And my final question to you is, why do you think it's important for us to go through difficult times?
Dude, this is one of the most important things in life, to be honest. And I've been through my fair share of difficult times where you're like, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent at the end of this month. But it's so important because if you don't go through the difficult times, you've got no scale of measure on the good times. And it goes back to what I said earlier. Like, life is like a roller coaster. It's never, ever going to be like sunshine and rainbows. At some point in time, you'll take a breath and you're like, that was so crazy. And then life will just be like, oh, like, here it is. It's real again. And you have to always take it in your stride. In the moment, it always seems like it's the worst thing in the world. Like, nothing worse could ever happen to you. And I always relate it to business because that's where I feel the most amount of failure, because I just take so much pride in what I do. And when I first started, there were instances where I would lose a client and I would like break down. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like this is a whole chunk of my income. Like, what now? What am I going to do for work? Where am I going to find my next opportunity? But that's why, like, I could say, like, if you quit your job and within a month you're not making a plan, then, there's something else that's wrong. And I would lose a client, and by the end of the week, I would have another client. And I'd realize, okay, I can do this. It's not just random potluck. And through the experience that you have every year, and you actually only get better through failure and through experiencing difficulties and being pulled back. It's the only way you can get better, because then you can self-analyze and go, okay, I know what I'm not going to do, or whatever way the relationship ended, or however you experience that failure, you can understand, okay, cool, then these are the decisions I need to make. I need to refine this, refine that. So definitely take it in your stride. You must. It sucks. There's going to come that day where it's like, oh man, this sucks. But it's just how you bounce back, and believing that you can bounce back. And also understanding that it always leads to new opportunities. A lot of the time we get stuck in this mindset where it's like, okay, cool. Even as a freelancer, if you have the same clients over like a year, you're still doing sort of the same thing every day and servicing these clients. As successful as it is and as great as it is, you'll lose another client. But that's why I say, okay, now tomorrow we're doing something else. Like a year ago, I was running around to different car dealerships doing all sorts of different stuff. And then I'd be like, do I want to develop their brands or do I want to develop my brand? Now I'm running around fixing cars, making content on shitboxes, traveling the world, doing stuff that I want to do. So it's a cycle. It always goes around like this. And then there'll come a time where you're like, okay, I now have the leverage through all the experience that I have and trying different things where I can pivot. Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? Do I want to do this? And I think that's the most fun thing about being pulled back. What did you say? Hardship or?
Yeah. Why is it important to go through difficult times?
Yeah, difficult times. I would say that's the greatest thing about going through difficult times, because you're forced to look within yourself. And I always say to people, if you already recognize in your heart that something's wrong and that you want change, you've made the first step. You've made the first step. And I speak to people who want to quit their jobs, who are going through difficult relationships, and they say, like, if it's there and you've already like consciously realized it, you've made the first step. Because one day you'll wake up in the morning and enough will be enough. And you'll just get such a kick up your ass where you are going to do it with a fire and a courage in your soul.
Trust your gut.
Yeah, you will. Everyone's got it in them. Yeah.
And lastly, where can people find you?
Social media. So if you just search TheCarScene, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everything is there.
Cool. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks for having me.